Sleep, let's just leave it at that. When you're lying in bed, unable to sleep, then please tell me, how long did you scroll to find this is relaxing snowy camping to help sleep. He is the ender of late night insomnia, wishing this guarantees a peaceful journey to dreamland. I bet your right foot is resting and your left. And your phone battery just hit 100%. As always, say hello if you found this. Now let us jump straight into today's bedtime story. Kamen, who walks his own path, entered the mountains in a cold season. He is looking for a safe camping spot, building a shelter. Snowy camping trip. Kamen struggled through the overgrown, rugged mountains. He arrived at sheltered slope. To build a shelter here, although it requires some effort, the beautiful scenery made Kamen determined. No matter how hard or tiring, he would build a place of his own. First, he collected some dead wood. He chopped the branches off the legs. With these legs scattered everywhere, Kamen saved time collecting building materials. He swung his axe with power, trimming the lugs clean. He carried them to the campsite. Kamen first used a saw to cut grooves at both ends. He used the grooves to fit the lugs together. Kamen is always slow and steady. He pursues perfection in every detail. When the 4 grooved lugs interlock, forming a square frame, that becomes the size of the shelter's base. Kamen filled the square wooden frame and dug downwards with his shovel. He wants to build the main shelter 1 meter underground, so he had to keep digging. Luckily, the ground wasn't frozen in early winter. Loose soil texture wasn't difficult to dig through. In no time, Kamen dug a meter-deep pit in the ground. With a spacious foundation pit, Kamen first secured the frame with nails. This prevents it from shifting during construction. Then he propped the frame up with legs. He laid a top under the frame. With the top's help, less rainwater will flow into the shelter. Once Kamen wrapped the top securely, he prepared several wooden pegs. He hammered them into the soil with an axe, clamping the square frame firmly in place. He filled the gaps under the top with soil, burying the wooden frame inside the pit. This added stability and improved the waterproofing of the raised frame. Kamen has his own ideas for building the walls. He first chopped niches into the legs. Supported by these niches, vertical legs could serve as posts to support a sturdy ridge beam. After the A-frame roof structure was set, Kamen could finally sit down and rest. Using his break, he brewed a cup of coffee for himself to replenish his life source. Kamen sat under a tree, eating a snack while drinking his coffee. Kamen didn't take a long rest. He continued with his busy work. He dug a hole in the corner of the pit to serve as the indoor fireplace. Once the round hole was large enough, he started along the fireplace site, digging downward for the chimney, until the chimney and fireplace were connected. And just like that, a primitive fireplace was built. Kamen took his saw to the nearby forest. Fallen legs in the ground were perfect to use. They proved to be really useful. He selected some straight legs and sawed them into the right lengths. Soon, a large pile was collected. He tied the wooden poles with rope. Following the slope of the hill, he dragged the poles to the shelter to build a wooden hut shelter. Many poles were needed. Kamen prepared enough construction materials naturally. He placed the collected poles into the A-shaped frame. The excess parts were cut off with a saw, as each smoothed-out pole was placed in the frame structure. The shelter began to take shape, following the building sequence. Kamen fixed the poles into the walls. Amidst the hammering of the axe, the 2 walls were half finished. Fog suddenly rolled into the mountain. The weather turned cold instantly. This was the scene Kamen wanted to see. A sudden snowfall covered the unfinished shelter in a thick white veil. Kamen didn't retreat. Instead, he felt even happier and more focused. He immersed himself in the snowy weather. He kept fixing poles to the frame. At this moment, the wall construction was nearing completion. After sealing the walls with straight poles, he sawed them flush and smooth. The scrap wood was stacked by the fireplace. He chopped them into smaller pieces to use as firewood. Building in the freezing snow. A burning fire improves the temperature. Kamen lit the dry wood inside. The fireplace had string suction. The roaring flames fueled Kamen's motivation. He continued building the unfinished wall. In the quiet snowy woods, smoke from the fireplace made the surroundings feel vibrant. Kamen gathered more wooden poles. He dragged them back to the shelter. He sealed the last wall with poles. To prevent snow from drifting inside, the fire was burning brightly. Cameron crafted a table on chasset. He could prepare his food on it. The seasoned food was wrapped in foil. He placed it in the het fireplace to cook. While waiting for the food, Cameron went back outside. He sealed the gaps with more poles. After the structure was finished, Cameron brought out a top. He covered the shelter completely. He fixed the top with nails. He installed beams for the wall frame. With sturdy beams in place, he backfilled the shelter walls with the dug-up soil. This helped the shelter blend into the earth. With the soil backfill, the shelter was windproof and warm. It integrated well into the environment. After decorating the entrance with grass, Cameron's shelter was finally complete. The food in the fireplace was ready. He took it out back inside. He cut it open with a knife, sitting in the warm shelter. Cameron began to feast. After the meal, Cameron stood at the entrance, admiring the beautiful snowy view. His snowy camping trip ended pleasantly. Cole, to make his retirement more fulfilling, trekked through the first snow of winter to build a shelter in the frozen forest. Snowy camp. After reaching a safe spot, he chose a sheltered, level area and started building his shelter. Cole took out his tactical axe and chipped lugs for the frame. The lugs under the sharp axe split in two. He takes a large top from his bag, spreading it in the snow. Along the bottom edge of the top, Cole uses tent pegs to secure it to the frozen ground. He then ties together the previously cut sticks, standing them up. They are perfect for prepping up the top. A simple shelter takes shape very quickly. Cole continues to chop more sticks to build the frame of the shelter. A wooden triangular frame, perfect for securing the top above. To ensure the inside is spacious enough, he uses rope to pull the sticks tight, stretching the top perfectly taut. A thin, sturdy, wind and snowproof shelter is now ready. Cole builds a stove using stones. He places two upright forks on either side to create a grill for the stove. Since the ground is frozen, it proves a bit difficult to set them up. But it's nothing that Cole can't handle. He first uses a small stick to clear the way, then he uses the forked stick to finalize it, with the grill set up. Cole prepares a thin branch to be used as an accessory for the grill. He skewers the marinated chicken in the branch through the pre-drilled holes, securing the chicken firmly in place. After some patient work from Cole, a roaring fire ignites in the grill. As the chicken is heated, a charred, savory aroma fills the air. Snow begins to fall from the sky. Cole sits inside his warm shelter, admiring the beautiful snowy view. The cedar trees in the forest stand tall. The shelter feels very safe in the snow. The chicken slowly changes color over the coals. Cole sits by the fire, waiting for the meal. Smoke rises in the quiet forest. The golden grilled chicken smells amazing. Cole removes the binding rope. The chicken is incredibly tender. Cole tears off a chicken leg and begins to take big bites. Watching such delicious food at night has made me really hungry. After the meal, it gets dark. Cole returns to the shelter to sleep, ending a pleasant day of winter camping. Kevin, known as the Sweater Guy, is an avid winter camper. Winter arrived with snow in Freljord. Kevin sets out again into the frozen snowy forest to experience survival away from the city. He traverses the snow-covered mountains, reaching a flat, sheltered area. A pine tree catches his attention. Kevin decides to settle here and build a shelter for the night. Kevin uses his axe first to clear the tree branches. The pine branches aren't wasted. They serve as a mat in the cold ground. Relying on the large tree for his shelter, Kevin starts gathering materials nearby. In the forest, it is easy to these fallen wooden sticks. With a little chipping, they make great building materials. Kevin leisurely collects the wood. He leans the processed sticks against the pine tree. As he places more sticks, the shelter structure emerges. An A-frame structure. It looks perfectly sized. Neither too high nor too low. For survival in cooled environments, this size is just right. Kevin truly has the experience. A shelter that is too large loses heat easily, making it hard to keep it warm inside. It was too small, forcing him to crouch down uncomfortably. Kevin uses his shadow axe. He chips up the sticks he gathered, arranging them along the tree trunk. Soon, the wooden frame of the shelter is complete. With a sturdy frame in place, sealing the gaps is much easier. He just needs to collect more dry branches to cover the frame structure. Kevin swings his axe with great force, chopping down the fallen dry branches. He carries them back to shelter, laying them thick over the frame. Layer by layer, the branches cover the frame. One wall of the shelter is finished quickly. And for the other wall, the ceiling work goes even smoother. He just needs to patiently collect branches. He also picks out some of the finer winds. This creates a wall that blocks wind and snow, and keeps the heat inside. Kevin spreads sift pine branches in the ground. Then he lays his wool blanket over them. It makes a bed, a comfortable place to sleep. Kevin rests briefly inside the shelter. Just as he prepares to work, a snowstorm interrupts his progress. To ensure he stays comfortable during this winter camping trip, Kevin decides to light a fire first, to warm up his shelter area. The snow falls incessantly. Soon, a large roaring fire is burning brightly. In the cold and silent forest, things feel a bit more lively. Kevin sits inside the warm shelter. He processes a branch with his axe, using the sharpened stick. He puts large chunks of beef over the coals, slow roasting the meat while waiting for the food. Kevin continues gathering pine branches. He takes a large bundle and covers the shelter roof, making the shelter windproof. Although a few gaps remain, through Kevin's constant effort, he covers the shelter with more pine branches. The gaps continue to disappear. The inside becomes warm and cozy. By now, the roasted meat is ready. Kevin sits by the fire, using his knife to cut the beef. He takes large, satisfying bites. After finishing his meal, Kevin keeps collecting more sticks. He carries the chipped logs back to camp, placing them in the fire. Thick, sturdy legs not only burn for a long time, but also keep the fire from going out. The sky begins to darken. In his spare time, he finishes the last of the beef. Then he heads out to collect more wood. Since the shelter entrance is open, he needs to build a windbreak to stop the wind from blowing the fire. It also does a good job at blocking the draft. Kevin uses the gathered sticks to quickly build up the wall. Once it is finished, the flames burn much more steadily. Kevin goes back inside and sets his bed. Outside, the heavy snow keeps falling. Inside, Kevin crawls into his bag and drifts off to sleep. Early the next morning, the overnight snow has turned the land white. Kevin puts in his snow boots. He steps out and stretches. He relights the extinguished fire. There is still some leftover beef. He just needs to heat it over the coals. It makes for a decent breakfast. Kevin takes the wood from the wall and adds it to the fire. He eats his warmed-up barbecue meat while sipping hot water from his mug. The quiet morning air has thin smoke. Kevin sits by the fire, eating a hearty breakfast. After breakfast, Kevin places his wool blanket in the fire. Sure enough, a bucket is drying along with his gear. Good times are always short-lived. Once the blanket is dry, Kevin packs up, ready to leave. He puts in his backpack. Finally, he puts out the fire. Facing the rising sun, he sets out for a new snowy trek. Rayson is a snow camping enthusiast. He struggles to pull his sled through the path, heading to a campsite he chose earlier. He continues in the pointed direction, though the slope is steep and deep snow blocks his way. Rayson expends quite a lot of effort, but with a clear goal in mind. No matter how hard the path, he will reach it safely. Rayson clears the snow with a stick. A cave appears in the hillside. Looking through the camera lens, the interior is incredibly spacious. Rayson uses his shovel to clear the cave entrance, making it easy to enter. The entrance is not very big, but large enough for Rayson to enter. He drags his camping gear to the entrance and heads inside with his headlamp. Just as expected, The space is large and roomy inside. It is much warmer than the outside. It makes a perfect shelter. For this camping trip, wind howls across the snowy hillside. Rayson stands at the entrance, refilling his energy levels, planning how to improve the shelter's windproofing and warmth. He takes his axe and saw from the sled, heading into the nearby woods, cutting some dry branches. Although the cave is a natural shelter, a perfectionist like Rayson still wants to modify it. He brings back branches for later use, then takes out his portable stove, setting it up at the entrance. The stove looks quite small, but installing it takes some real effort. Since the cave lacks natural vents, the chimney needs several bent joints to reach out through the opening. After installing the stove, he starts sealing the cave door. Using processed wooden sticks, he knocks out the doorway frame. After building a simple frame, he secures the wood in place. Adding a square wooden door, fixed with hinges, the shelter is quickly sealed up. A smooth, swinging wooden door makes it feel like a home. Rayson uses dry mist to fill gaps between the wood, to keep the freezing wind out. With the door installed, access feels slightly restricted now. Rayson pulls his saw hard through the snow, collecting more firewood to light his stove. He lines the chimney gap with heat-resistant material to prevent the wood from catching fire. Once everything is ready, Rayson lights the dry firewood. As smoke rises from the chimney, the cold shelter becomes cozy. Night is falling. Rayson returns inside after a busy day. His stomach begins to growl. The room is heated by the fireplace. It has become warm and cozy. Rayson sits in the warm shelter. He uses an axe to split some wood. He stacks it neatly by the fireplace. The goal is to use the heat to dry it. He dries the damp firewood for later use. Rayson lays a tablecloth and a large boulder. He lights a lantern and top. Fresh ingredients are laid out. Rayson starts showing off his skills to cook a meal. To fill his belly, he chips up the fresh vegetables, setting them aside for the pan. He heats oil in a pan in the stove. He adds the cut ingredients. Under high heat, the sliced ingredients sizzle and release juices. He sprinkles seasoning after removing it. Rayson continues to fry 2 steaks in the pan. Judging by the food, he definitely came prepared. Such a rich dinner makes my mouth water. He then brews a hot cup of coffee. Winter camping, life just gets more refined. After the steak is done, Rayson plates it up with some sides. Sitting in the warm, cozy shelter, he eats his fill. The night is deep, yet he is awake. Rayson steps outside to admire the night sky. Finally, he returns inside. He spreads out a moisture-proof mat. He takes out his sleeping gear. He blows up an inflatable mattress. He spreads his sleeping bag and Rayson crawls into the warm sleeping bag, reflecting in the day's events. He drifts off to sleep peacefully. The next morning, Rayson opens the wooden door. He packs up to leave. Good times are always short-lived. Simplicity is the essence of life. Though reluctant to leave, his supplies are limited. He must depart. He puts in his cold weather gear. He walks outside. He dismantles the fireplace and packs it away. Rayson closes the shelter's door. He pulls his sled and starts the long journey home. Rayson loves winter camping because his last cave shelter was so comfortable. He not only cooked delicious food there, but also built a sturdy and nice-looking door. Still wanting more, Rayson sets off again, carrying his heavy camping gear. He walks hard through the snow. He crisses through the forest and climbs over high snowy mountains. He stops to catch his breath when tired. After catching his breath, he continues on. Luckily, those who work hard are rewarded. Rayson successfully reaches the mountain top. There is a shelter built under the snow. Similar to the last cave, it is very much the same. Rayson uses his hands to clear the snow from the entrance. The wooden door is finally revealed. Rayson opens the door. The shelter is quite spacious inside, it's just a bit dusty from being empty. Rayson walks in to inspect it. Once he confirms it's safe, he brings his pack inside. The snow-covered shelter looks small yet impressive. Rayson installs a chimney for the stove at the entrance to improve the fireplace's draw. because of gaps in the door. Some snow has fallen inside. Reeson first cleared away the snow at the entrance, clearing it all away. To avoid trucking snow inside while moving in and out, the cave had been abandoned for a long time. The air inside was freezing cold. Reeson started by lighting the fireplace to warm up his shelter. Then he lit a lantern to brighten up the dark interior. He pulled out a tablecloth and spread it over the square table. He placed his food and tup and poured himself a hot cup of tea. His cozy snowy camping trip had finally begun. After snacking and some light food, Reeson started cleaning the place. He used a broom to sweep away the dust and pushed it all outside. He built simple furniture near the fireplace and added more fuel to the fire to keep his shelter warm and comfortable. Smoke billowed out from the chimney in the hillside. Reeson gathered some straight wooden sticks to keep inside for later use. He removed the boards from the wooden door, adjusting the latch to fit properly. Then he reattached the boards securely. Using the sticks he collected, he sealed the gaps in the door to keep the snow from blowing inside. Reeson worked hard both inside and out, continuing to feed the fireplace. With the fire going strong, the cave shelter slowly began to thaw. It was warm enough to take off his thick coat. Reeson stepped outside with his pet, filling it with a pit of clean snow. He put it in the fire too. He added the beef into the boiling water, letting it simmer over the fire while waiting for the meal to cook. Reeson took out his paints and began doodling in the cave walls. The little drawings were coming to life under his brush. He is actually quite a talented artist. It felt like living in an ancient cave dwelling. He painted various shapes in the walls, adding a personal touch to the shelter. Once the painting was done, Reeson checked in the beef stew. Time to prepare the vegetables. He chopped the ingredients into pieces, a full bowl of potatoes and carrots. Adding them into the pot with a dash of pepper and salt. He covered it to let it simmer for a while. A steaming het meal was ready to eat. In such freezing conditions, eating a hearty meal truly warms the soul. Reeson served a full bowl, sitting in his bright shelter. He dug in with gusto. Witching this late at night makes me hungry. I could really go for some noodles now. After a satisfying meal, Reeson get ready for bed. He pulled out his sleeping bag. Since the floor was cooled, he didn't build a wooden bed, so he hung his hammock in the cave wall. It was just enough for one person. It was getting late. Reeson climbed into his warm sleeping bag and drifted off to sleep peacefully. The next morning, the birds chirping in the snow sounded lovely. Reeson reluctantly crawled out of his hammock. After getting dressed, he relit the dying fireplace. He took down the hammock from the wall, pucked it up and hung it aside. He sat in the cozy shelter and had a quick breakfast. The snowy camping trip went by so fast. It was time to head home. Reeson packed up all his gear and stepped out of the shelter, concluding this wonderful snowy adventure.